We're live, so you can say whatever.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. Just got off our phone call with Elon, negotiating being the first podcast broadcast on Mars, so I decided to dress up. We'll keep you posted on that.
I've thought about it.
What,
Mars.
going there?
Yeah. I don't know. I like Earth.
Earth's not bad,
It's okay.
all things considered.
It's got air, water.
Yeah, air, water. Well, I saw a NASA picture or something get tweeted that was of one of the ice caps or whatever on Mars, and Elon was the top reply, and it was like, "There's actually so much water on Mars." I think he used the phrase "ice water," which you could just say "ice."
I feel like there's so much that has to be done to make it habitable.
Oh God, yeah. Well, you couldn't. You would have to just go live in a. I'm immediately way too warm in this jacket.
I know it's fucking hot in here. I'm not
Even
even
up here.
July, baby. I'm so happy. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, you'd be
good thing
really,
we
really fucking hot on Mars and then really, really cold at night.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like you're kind of living in a high-tech tent in the desert, but you can't go outside at all. Without a spacesuit or whatever. So
Honestly, man, I know what staying home does to me. And what do samurai commit? Seppuku?
seppuku.
I would probably commit Sudoku.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's an interesting thought because the quarantine was kind of a good test of your isolation, especially or even in a bigger city. Like for me, because I was in a condo, so I didn't have a ton of out. We have our patio. That's it, right? So it was quite confined. And then conversely, pretend like New York, where there were certain people who couldn't leave their apartments, and people didn't leave their apartments for months.
Yeah.
Did
We
not
had it.
leave them.
We had it good here. We
had
could go
it
for
really great, yeah.
groceries. We could go out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it wasn't real here, so
Was it real anywhere? I don't know.
I don't know.
We should.
It was totally real. YouTube overlords, don't take us down. Am I still in frame if I go over here? Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
All right.
You're fine. Nice glasses.
Thank you.
What are those?
They're for night driving, technically, yellow ones, because it helps with depth.
You look like
Perception.
you're in the Big Lebowski.
Or that, yeah. Maybe that's where I saw it. I haven't watched that movie, but I feel like I saw yellow sunglasses somewhere.
Yeah.
I was like, I kind of like that look.
The guy who in the meme is cocking his gun.
Yeah,
And is like, am
yeah.
I the only one around
Yeah,
here?
exactly.
Yeah.
Man, remember old Reddit memes like that? That was, oh God. They were at some point those were funny, apparently, in the early 2010s.
There were. You know where I first started looking at memes? The Chive.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes. But literally all the Chive's content is just stolen from everywhere else. But that's all content is nowadays, is kind of reposting, right?
News outlets also do that.
Yes. You know what I've been thinking about is, so have you ever heard of the it's generational archetypes or something like that?
Generational
Or there's
archetypes.
four, society kind of goes in a cycle of 4 generations.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
And each is called a turning.
Yes.
And there's a name for it it's 2 dudes' names. It's something. I was looking at it earlier. Don't care. Anyways, if you look up the 4 turnings or something
Is
like
this
that.
the one that's weak men be straight chillin'?
I'm
I'm paraphrasing.
It's yes, exactly. So
Okay.
the meme that's strong men make good times, yada yada yada.
Yeah, yeah.
That one. That is the gross summary of
The 4 turning. Or
yes,
whatever.
or yeah, whatever it's called. It is the 1 second.
I've thought about that. Which phase do you think we're in? Because I think I know which phase we're in.
The Strauss-Howe generational theory.
Holy
so,
shit.
just look up 4th turning theory or whatever.
4th turning.
Yeah. So basically it says that now there is some like academic argument to this, but when you look at the history, it does vaguely follow this, but essentially society just goes in four cycles, and they last about 20 to 22 years each, 20 to 25 maybe, and they are the high, the awakening, the unraveling, and the crisis. So have you read, like, you sounds like you've had the Cliff Notes version of this before.
Well, I do know that empires typically last between like 100 and 250 years.
Yeah.
And for example, the United States is at whatever, 1776.
Like 300 and something?
No,
right?
Whatever. 2020 minus 1776. So 204. It's like right on the cusp.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So will we see it in our lifetimes? Probably.
Well, that's the interesting thing. So, because it appears, reading these, so the high is basically, is like a, so, I'll just read it. So, it follows a crisis. So, during the high, institutions are strong, individualism is weak, society is confident about where it wants to go collectively, though those outside the majoritarian center often feel stifled by the conformity. Basically, it's kind of a time of like building establishment. Then you have the awakening. And then so this example in our time was post World War II, United States specifically, but generally the world, right? And it was a time of prosperity and building and stuff.
Yep.
Then you have the awakening, which is when institutions are attacked in the name of personal and spiritual autonomy. Just when society is reaching its high tide of public progress, people suddenly tire of social discipline and want to recapture a sense of self-awareness, spirituality, and personal authenticity. Young activists look back at the previous high as an era of cultural and spiritual poverty. So they say this was like the kind of that counterculture revolution of the 60s. Stuff, right?
This is the hippies.
Hippies, exactly.
Yeah.
Then unraveling is the opposite of the high. Institutions are weak and distrusted. Individualism is strong and flourishing. And then unravelings come after awakenings when society wants to atomize and enjoy. And they say this was basically like the 1980s to the 2000s, more or less. Then crisis is an era of destruction, often involving a war or revolution, in which institutional life is destroyed and rebuilt in response to a perceived threat to the nation's survival. After the crisis, civic authority revives, cultural expression redirects towards community purpose, and people begin to locate themselves as members of a larger group. So they basically say, now granted, this one has kind of been coming that this is the millennial generation, like 2000 to now. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, but it's interesting.
Starting with maybe September 11th.
Yeah, well, it says this was started with the dot-com crash.
Okay, so 2000.
Yeah. 2001.
Yeah, all of that coincide. Very interesting.
It is like, one could argue it's confounding variables, but then they have a whole bunch of examples going back to like medieval times kind of showing it or whatever. So, I don't know. But
I would argue that after the crisis, there's an awakening and then a high. Because how can a high come right after a crisis? Doesn't make any sense.
There has to be like
almost another
there's kind of
step in
transition period or whatever.
Yeah. I don't refute it. I think
no, I don't disagree at all. I think and then so this got me thinking. So, I mean, obviously first of all, between like COVID and what's happening now and stuff, but like in our lifetime, there was a lot of talk when COVID started how like we've lived through like 3 recessions or whatever in our lifetime, right? Like, I think the threads are starting to come unraveled a little bit, right? And obviously, with what's going on in the world right now, with like it would be very hard to argue that last point I just read. But what's kind of interesting, I think, is that there's kind of a distrust of authority and the establishment on both sides. But but if you ask a left-leaning person who is the establishment, they would say the right. And if you ask a right-leaning person who is the establishment, they would say the left.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of this common front, but everyone's perspective is kind of different on it.
Yeah, I think politics in and of itself is kind of almost a waste of time because it distracts from like the actual goings on, which is essentially like there's differences in class,
mm-hmm.
and we belong to a class that also is full of people on the right and the left,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's less a spectrum thing and
mm-hmm.
more so like a vertical thing.
Gotcha. Right.
So it's more so like the rich versus the poor type of thing
mm-hmm.
than it is the right versus the left.
Yeah.
And I think when people start to realize that, actual change can come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I think we're kind of on some level of disruption revolution. I think a lot of people want to move away from, and this has been going on for years, like whatever established government and or system there
mm-hmm.
is,
mm-hmm.
especially young people, like dislike it regardless of where you sit on any kind of spectrum or whatever, right? So,
yeah.
And even, I mean, for myself, I don't fit into a political spectrum is my belief, or at least if I almost don't fit in like a traditional one, right?
No.
And I think there's more people opening up to the idea of, how do I put this? I think people are kind of becoming more accepting of having kind of open conversations and understanding that you'll probably disagree on some things, but
mm-hmm.
in reality, most people are kind of within one standard deviation. So you might think a little this way or a little that way, but you're not that different and can actually get things done.
Well, it's imposing a binary system on a world that is not binary.
Exactly.
So, and we've had discussions about this where if I'm, for argument's sake, on the right,
mm-hmm.
everything that party does, I have to agree with, even though it's almost like a team, right? So it's like my team did this, so I have to agree with everything that they're doing,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to criticizing individual acts and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of actually like doing that, you have to be like, well, I agree with what Trump said today,
mm-hmm.
and then you're just like,
or
I don't.
Exactly, or you don't agree, or whatever.
Yeah.
And even on that note, and that was something I've been thinking about. I think a lot of people now, who the hell knows what this would be like? But I've heard this talked about on like Joe Rogan,
mm-hmm.
where they want to do like, or not, I shouldn't say that. His idea is something like you shouldn't have to just be in like one party's box.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you should almost vote on individual issues that are important to you.
I've thought about that, yeah.
And then, so there's almost no political party. It's
being fully accountable to the people.
The society, I guess, right?
Yeah. Because, I mean, so what am I supposed to do if I didn't vote for you and the next 4 years you lead the country in a certain direction, right? It's
mm-hmm.
like, it's kind of like...
Right, you just have to be like, oh,
yeah,
we'll get them next time, right? So,
but I think it's a fallacy, and I think this is why government is flawed, because
mm-hmm.
I don't think there are a select few people who really fall on the spectrum
mm-hmm.
and will fall to the radical left or the right.
Yeah.
Those people are the ones that get all the attention.
Well, the most extreme of anything is the most outspoken, almost by definition.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I unapologetically am pretty much small government,
mm-hmm.
like don't tread on me style libertarian viewpoint.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even being that way, you almost are in the modern right-left
dichotomy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I couldn't think of that word the other day. You're right-leaning economically and left-leaning socially.
Yeah, socially.
So
So it's like,
on a modern right-left, you're almost right down the center.
Yeah.
But if people ask you your views on something, they'd be like, "Oh, you're a crazy anarcho-capitalist." Or if they ask you your views on other things, they'd be like, "Oh, you're a crazy, whatever the furthest left you could be." I don't know.
I love how we said we would never talk about politics, but
We're almost talking about it in the most glazed-over way.
here's the thing: if you really want to go down the rabbit hole with this, go and look at, you know, those like political balls, the cartoons where it has like, it's a ball and it has like a flag on it, except it's a viewpoint, like a political
yes,
viewpoint.
it's like it's an emoji, kind of.
Kind of, but it's like a ball, and it's like they do comics with the balls. Go and look into like the political balls or whatever. I'm gonna look it up right here. But there's like 60 different viewpoints, and obviously they're not covered when you look into.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I'd have to see that because I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing like you know how there's like an XY scale, but it cross sections in the middle, and then it's like, you know, libertarian right, authoritarian right,
Yeah.
libertarian or socialist left, authoritarian left, or something like that.
Ideology balls.
Yeah.
And there's like this thing. You ever seen that? You've seen that for sure.
Oh,
Yeah. And there's like a million of them.
What did they say there?
There's like radical centrism. There's like anti-radicalism. There's dead centrism. There's liberalism. There's modernism. There's neoliberalism. There's radical apolitical.
Right. So it's kind of like
So it's like, I'm radically apolitical. It's like, fuck you for having any political.
right.
viewpoint.
Okay, I have seen those.
Yeah, it's actually hilarious, and I've gone through them,
Yeah.
and I know which one I lay on because, but I mean, there's no party for that.
Yeah.
So,
That's funny.
yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, that is good. The one I was saying though, where it's like a cross section of that, and it's just SpongeBob clips for each of them. It's fucking funny.
I haven't seen that. I would
Yeah.
actually love to see that.
Yeah, I think I have it saved on my Instagram.
You know what we got to get back to? Elective monarchism.
Oh really? So like,
Seriously,
but has that even like existed before?
maybe
In like
I don't know.
ancient like
I would
like
almost
like you know, like ancient Viking tribes where the strongest guy ruled, and you would challenge him to a fight if you wanted to rule,
Yeah.
and then everyone was like, "Oh, he's the strongest. We'll listen to him."
I would, in modern times, I would almost argue like dictatorships are kind of like, you know, like how, for example, how Hitler got in Germany.
Oh,
It was
like how they
there was an
get
election.
elected in the first time,
Yeah.
and then they're like,
But
"Don't
you
worry, guys, I'll give back the power."
Yeah, and he essentially almost
Yeah.
became a monarch.
Right,
If we're
right.
like getting down to simplistic
Like
terms,
simplistic, objective
Yeah.
terms. Yeah.
not a monarch, but a monarch nonetheless.
Right.
Mercantilism ball, that's a good one.
Right.
I think we need to abolish fiat currency and get back to trade.
That is a very good idea.
Yeah,
Buy Bitcoin. I set up Bitcoin price alerts on my
nice.
today, so it's a very hot topic right now.
What do you think the? Because obviously there's like 1,600 different coins right now, right?
Mhm.
Which of them do you think is actually going to be successful?
Well, sadly, Dogecoin you can't buy or trade anymore because the value tanked and they stopped running servers for it.
Okay.
So
could
that
be the
one's out
last
the window.
node.
You
could be the last holdout
The
node.
one last. It's like the one last blockbuster that's
Yeah.
still open in some small town.
Take all the transaction fees. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
That is literally the opposite of what you want in a blockchain.
Well, and then so to that, what number did you just say for how many there?
I think there's like 1,600. I'm sure there's more, but
Right. So, but how many are built on Ethereum? So,
a lot.
which is kind of an inherent problem of like, this is just nothing, right? So, I don't know. The ones that'll last will be like, Bitcoin will be store of value. Ethereum is more like for its practicality, like it'll be used as more
Day-to-day transaction.
and almost maybe not even like so much transactional. Maybe it would, just because if it was like a very widely used blockchain,
Yeah.
then the currency in theory should circulate equally as much to meet it.
Contract stuff is very interesting. Like the smart
See,
contracts.
I think that's the biggest thing that will impact our most directly and in our lifetime to the largest degree. I believe is
Yeah.
like blockchain contracts and stuff. Excuse me. The issue with Bitcoin will never be an effective. It's almost like a design flaw, but it will never be like a super effective transactional thing unless I don't know. Like
I mean,
it's not really practical for me to carry around a brick of gold and chip off a little bit and give it to you to give me something.
yeah,
right?
but I
So,
think that the like intangible aspect of it maybe gives it
Yeah.
that. I think that the issue, well, not even the issue, because it does process faster than a credit card payment would. You know?
oh yeah, I guess it does.
So
Because
it's
it's
like-
slow in the Bitcoin or in the crypto world, but
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
like I transferred myself X Bitcoin and got it in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, like, and
yeah,
that's
it's not that bad.
and Ethereum is like 5 minutes or
Yeah,
something less.
Yeah.
I think that those two for sure. I think Ethereum has like its staying
Mhm.
power just because everything seems to be built on that right now,
Mhm.
and because of the open source. Like everything's open source, but
Yeah.
they are very encouraging of that.
hmm
I think Tether's interesting because it seems to be like well,
I
that's
don't remember which one Tether is.
Tether's like literally tethered to the U.S. dollar. So if a
Oh,
U.S.
yes,
dollar's
okay.
yeah, which is
But in our
hilarious.
world of no fiat currency,
Yeah.
that one doesn't work.
Yeah. Ripple, I don't think is a good one because it's centralized.
Yeah, because doesn't someone own it?
Yeah. I don't know who. I have to
Oh, okay.
do more
Right,
research
yeah,
on that.
something like that. I was reading about,
Litecoin's interesting because it's the fast one.
and that's a well-established one. Stellar Lumens is one I was reading about recently. Which, so they are tied to fiat currency, but they're about cross-border transactions between currencies. So I think making it easier, like not having to do exchanges and stuff or something. I don't know, but I was reading about it. It sounded kind of interesting at the time.
Yeah. And the last one I think is Monero because
I
I
don't
think
know which one that is.
that's like the totally anonymous one. Like
Was that the one? I thought there was another one that was like
yeah.
had an X in
It's
it
the
somewhere.
privacy coin essentially.
Okay.
That's very interesting because I think that's where you get the sketchy shit going down. But I think it's always going to be adopted because the sketchy shit is
You'll
always
have
going to go down.
you'll have the purists.
Yeah.
But well, that's the thing too. Is it's like, you know, I'm trying to think of good examples. There's just lots of stuff that like the drug trade dictates the reason this is this way or this is this way just because so much money goes through it or whatever.
course.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think, and you know, that's kind of the underside of the less nice underbelly of cryptocurrencies. But it's like, okay, they were using cash before, right? Like we all talk about how evil that is. So.
Yeah. I think the volatility is coming down substantially. So
Oh, it's definitely here to stay.
Yeah.
Like, as a whole, as like it's definitely an asset class at the very least.
I think most people are concerned about accepting payment in it because tomorrow you're going to, let's say you sell me a
right.
coffee for $5.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it's worth $3.
Yeah.
So
So you've lost, like,
but isn't that what fucking Canadian dollars are too compared to the US dollar?
in theory, but I guess it would be mass adoption that mitigates the risk of that, because then you have the case of the $80 million pizza or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, that was
Which isn't
before
it.
mass adoption. So
yeah, so it's right on the fringe, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know.
the global anti-globalism ball. That's a good one too.
So
Globally anti-globalist.
so you're globally united against globalism?
capitalist communism ball? How's that even a fucking thing? Transhumanism ball. That's a good one.
Sign me up.
I don't know how I feel about transhumanism. There was a point there where I was like, yeah, fucking put my brain in
Plug
a
me
vat.
in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's something where in the Puritan idea of it, it sounds good, but the problem is, well, it's almost a conflicting viewpoint, because I was even going to say, going back to the like voting on each individual issue,
Yeah.
the only way to effectively administer that would be like biometric tracking, implant chip something, so you have a new unique thing. Like in
Yeah.
theory you can do photo ID and stuff, but then when it's
Yeah.
all paper, that's hard to administer, right? So you just show up and it's like, beep, yes, this is Josh Blaze confirmed. How do you vote on this thing, right? But then the conspiracy, not even totally conspiracy, but you know, the reasonable skeptic says, okay, but now the government knows where I am at all times, has all my data, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like that ID 2020 thing or whatever,
Yeah.
where it's like, in theory, it sounds like an okay idea, but then I'm skeptical because some corporation administers it and holds all the data. Like I don't
Yeah.
like it's an uncomfortable conglomeration of data. Right?
Anytime there's a huge data store, like that's where you get targeting, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's like if you want my fucking personal information, well, go hack that thing and you have the gold mine of all gold mines, you know?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that kind of what started, well, Edward Snowden's thing? Because he was like the only person in a department that had like this mass pooling of data, and he's like, what's in this? And then the rest is history.
I don't know if that's how it went, but
I do know he was in a department like by himself,
He
like in a
was.
remote location or something like that.
well,
It
he was
kinda
like
weird.
a contractor for Dell. And he like
Right.
he actually like never like he worked for the government, but he like didn't work for the government. It's
Oh,
kind
okay.
of it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would recommend his latest book that came out. I don't know, man. I personally think that again, this is me, libertarian Josh, coming out and being like, "Fuck off," essentially.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, why do you need all that information on each individual person? I don't know. Because I mean, we've seen how dystopian it gets in China. So
Pronounce it wrong so the algorithms can't catch it.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah, see, and then that's the thing where it's like the credit score things and stuff, like it's
I would,
it-
yeah, that shit
it's
is fucking
surreal.
crazy.
Like it almost like it's like watching a movie when you see some of it. Like their even their social distance tracking and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. The world's not going the right direction. It's definitely, if you read fucking Brave New World, or
Which one's that?
that's Aldous Huxley, would recommend. It's
Oh,
another
okay.
one of the 1984. I mean,
Is it a fictional book?
yeah,
What's it called again?
Brave New World.
Oh, okay, never
Yeah,
mind.
it's these
I'm thinking
authors
of like
knew something, man.
Dos Ex Machina or
Okay,
whatever.
well, I mean they're all on the fucking same wavelength. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Personally, I that fucking log cabin's looking pretty good.
That's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
Or like, well, so even as I'm saying this, do we get towards your idea of like everyone kind of has their own website, like the early internet days,
Yeah.
and you selectively share what you want to share,
Yeah.
which, so you kind of have a like collectivist individuals to go with, like it's almost like a oxymoron system in what it describes, you know?
Yeah. If you want to like look into that, the project is called Solid. Have you
Oh,
looked
okay.
into it?
No.
It's written by like one of the guys who essentially created the HTTP protocol,
Right.
which is Tim
Oh,
Berners-Lee.
yes. Okay. You've talked about that. I just haven't read
Yeah.
the book or read about the program.
I think that we do need to get back to a little bit more of that, like collectivism in small numbers and
Yeah.
not collectivism in large numbers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's such a weird thing to think about, but it makes sense. Hang on one sec. Sorry.
Oh, good.
What is it? Solid Internet?
Yeah, I think the project's just called Solid.
Here we go.
But when you really get down to human psychology, like humans have always been in groups of what, no more than 250, 300
Something
people.
like that. If not, like 20 to 100.
Yeah.
Right? That's almost the thing is like society is like too big, right?
Yeah.
You're not meant to be in a city of 8 million people, 4 million people, right?
You know, I think at least like if you went to track down like depression rates and stuff, it skyrockets when you go into huge metropolitan areas, I would say. As a per capita, I think it's massive.
That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah. I mean, and just going to social media, like it's never in human history been that you have 1,000 friends.
Yes,
You know?
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, or 25,000 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just we're not the thing we always have to remember is we have 4 billion years of evolution and 50 years of liberalized society and like 10 to 15 years of effective social media, right? So like we're really not meant for this work. Like it's I don't know. It's so strange.
These are thoughts I've had
Yeah.
for sure. Because I mean, we know what works over the past 100 years, and it doesn't even really work that well.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too. So this is something I actually was. Maybe we talked about this perhaps on here. Similar to this 4 generations thing of like, because we always kind of look back at like great grandfather, grandfather, fathers, kind of their world that existed where it was like you grow up, you get a job, you maybe get some education afterwards, you get a job working 9 to 5, you retire at this age,
Yep.
yada, yada, yada. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of like the normal life path.
Yep.
But like, what if the world that facilitated that life path is gone, right? Or no longer exists?
And people don't want to even
Well,
think about
that's the
that.
thing, right? Like, I think and maybe this is a catalyst to that of like, I really believe we're like to pick on like work for a second, like working 9 to 5s and stuff.
Yeah.
I think we're beyond that, and we're getting towards what like even like Naval Ravikant describes, where it's like kind of this almost everyone's kind of almost like an independent contractor collaborating on everything.
Well, you're almost like a node, and you get put into a project and taken out because you
Almost collectivist individualism in a way.
Yeah, no kidding. But that's exactly what it is, because like you have this skill set, and I will form a team around that skill set. We'll create this product or project or service or whatever. Move on to the next one. I think that's
Precisely. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I don't know why people would want to fight that, because I do know why people would want to fight that. The useless people that have no skill set. But the people that actually have skill sets and have, and like can learn on the fly, which I believe everybody can.
Yeah. I even think it's like getting outside of that realm of like, I need to work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week or whatever.
Yep.
Because the average white collar worker only works 2 to 3 hours a day, right? So like, what is productivity and effective work? Right?
I'll make a very fucking bold prediction. By the time that we die, there will be no hourly wage. Because why would I pay a fucking hourly wage for a product that could be completed in 4 hours when I know the person's just going to fuck the dog for 8 and get paid for 8?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. To me, it makes no fucking sense to do an hourly wage. I think that the whole commission-based...
even like, I would say performance-based is the better word.
Yeah.
Which could be great or well administered with a blockchain contract system, right? So, I don't know.
I think we are hitting on all the points of like
It's
the
funny how much
philosophy
this
behind
actually
that.
is all connecting better, connecting together so much better than I thought it would when I started this conversation.
Yeah. And we swear we're not high right now.
Yeah.
That's going to be the title of this episode.
I like it. No, absolutely. I mean, and then that's almost that thing of like the next generation creates like a new common order collectivism system that's actually very, very structured, but you're individuals within that system.
Right.
I don't know. Intriguing.
No.
Did Long and Hard predict the future? Come back for episode 2000.
2,500.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's to me, I feel like obviously everybody sees flaws in society. Society is like the best thing that we have. Like, it's almost like, how do I phrase this? It's the best that we have so far. You know?
Yes, well said.
But it's like the best that we've had so far can still get better in clearly a bunch of different ways. It's just I don't know. You got to be one of the guys that spurs in that direction. And I do think a lot of people do think like us. Like, I don't think that this is some out there viewpoint. I think that a lot of people do feel kind of disenfranchised with the classic.
Maybe not in the exact same way or have thought about it as much, but at least are kind of like, oh yeah, like I'm kind of, this seems to make no sense.
Yeah.
And even to expand on that actually and kind of contradict myself, there is kind of like a growing millennial resentment, discontempt, feeling not part of the system right?
Yeah.
You see it in memes.
Yeah, and I think that that's like anybody with half a brain thinks that way. Like I think that it's just kind of like
Yeah.
there's a lot of problems that need solving, and the current systems are not the best way of doing things.
Yeah.
But I think that like how do you kind of shift a system is you have to essentially start at the very base
Start
level.
from scratch. And we almost, because it's been said before that like now this was talking about America, which is maybe a better example, but Canada is too, any Western country, but we almost have the worst of both worlds in a lot of countries in terms of we have all the worst parts of capitalism and all the worst parts of socialism kind of weirdly mingled together, and it's not really working that well, right? So,
but when I talk about like the base level, I'm talking about like the individual too. Like I think that like it has to be a shift in each individual's mind that, hey, this can be done better, and then kind of go out from there.
Yeah.
Where you go on from there. I think that thing that Naval Ravikant says, where it's like, I'm like a communist when I'm in my family.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I'm like a socialist when I'm in my friend group. And then when it comes to a country, I'm a capitalist, because the level of trust in such a large group of people isn't really there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, well, that's exactly it, and that kind of goes back to the left-right dichotomy. It doesn't really make sense because, again, you're like most people are, communists at home or whatever, socialists at home.
Yeah.
Your civic your
your
mindset,
neighborhood
neighborhood, you're more socialist.
Yeah.
And it shifts to conservatism as you get bigger government, all the way to like far libertarian when you look at the biggest forms of government, right?
Yeah.
So.
No, very true. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think as long as it's left versus right, you're going to get nowhere, because it's essentially spinning your wheels, and it's like
that's exactly
and it's a pendulum, and a pendulum goes nowhere, and eventually a pendulum runs out of steam too, because there's friction.
Exactly. Right.
Ooh, that was deep. That was fucking deep. That was fucking deep.
Good analogy.
You said you were going to read something on the air?
Oh. This is very much a kind of dumb turn.
Okay, that's okay.
If we want to dumb down this conversation.
We can dumb it down for like 3 minutes.
But I got a text. So just before starting, I got a text. Hi, Kyla. This is Rochelle and Jess. How are you? Just wondering if we can get your opinion. We are thinking of maybe extending our property at the back where it backs onto Crown land. We're just wondering if it's worth it. Jess can call you and explain further, or if you're out and about, you can stop by for coffee or wine. I'm working from home, so we're both home. Thank you. Then immediately after, sorry, wrong number. So someone whose number is like one off of mine must have a property.
I would text them back and be like, is that invite for wine still out? Or something stupid like that.
That'd be funny. Yeah.
Do it and see what happens.
I was thinking, I'm trying to think of something that was good.
With a laughing face, because people can't know tonality in text messages.
Yeah, that was funny. Do you remember back in the day, texts would get like intertwined in terms of like, I would text someone and it would, or someone would be texting me, then all of a sudden your text would come from a random number. So it was clearly our conversation, but a random phone number, or vice versa. Your number would be sending messages or something like that.
I don't remember that. I just do remember, like, if you had your phone next to a radio, there was like crackling when it came through.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know.
Really? You don't remember that?
No, I don't.
Huh. Yeah, it would be like, so I would be texting you, and then like a totally random, like I'd be like, hey, do you want to do this, this, and this? And then it would like come from a random number but be your response to my message.
Admittedly, I did get on the texting train pretty late.
Yeah?
Because like, I don't think I started texting until about grade 10.
No, this happened to me in like high school and stuff, because I didn't start texting till then as well. But, and then you would get ones where it would be like, someone would text your number and be like, why you texting my girl, man? And it's like, I mean, aside from all the girls I was texting, I would be like, wait, what? And they're like, you're texting my chick, and the text made no fucking sense, because it would be like, all right, John's gonna meet us at the gym at 5:30, and me and Josh are gonna blah 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 blah. So it's like, what the fuck, right? I'm like, oh, it must be one of those things where it like sent the wrong number or whatever.
That's a security flaw and a big one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm surprised that never happened to you.
I'm trying. Yeah, I don't.
I wonder if anyone else remembers that.
I was also a BBM guy too for the longest time.
That actually could be a factor.
I don't think I sent a text from grade 11 to like first year university. It was all BBMs.
But, well, you texted me, and I never had BlackBerry. Or
did I though?
Right? I don't know. Anyways, I see your point.
I've thought about going back to the flip phone too.
You know, I've been thinking about God, like I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like chill from social media. For a while, for like today or just once a week or whatever, and then that day I didn't look at it for a few hours. I'm like, I'm kind of bored. I want to look at
fucking casino. Right? It's a casino, man.
It literally is, and I think of like, I even know, like it's such a dopamine overload. And then when you're like, if you're trying to limit it from one factor, you find yourself kind of having like, I kind of realized I was having like, I don't want to say like
withdrawals,
kind of almost like weird cravings or whatever sort of thing, right? So like basically your body just kind of wants that dopamine in other ways, right? Yeah. So
I don't know. I keep fucking banging this thing. I mean, I've thought about like just kind of leaving it at home when I go out, and then taking like a flip phone when I go out. If there's any emergencies, people are gonna call me.
That's a good idea.
You know, like, and I get it for business that I need to have that phone, but at the same time, it's like, if I'm gone for like 2 hours, is it really gonna fucking matter? You know?
Yeah. See, that's the thing is like, I would love to, but I wouldn't want to leave it at home, just because it's good to have on you. Because even though nothing goes wrong 99% of the time or whatever.
Yeah, but even that's why you have your flip phone for your like 5 numbers that you have to call, and your lawyer,
you have lawyer, other lawyer, accountant. No, you like have, remember those like real kiddie flip phones where it was like there were only 5 buttons, and it was like mom, dad, like 5 big buttons, and you can only do.
We need to go back to that.
Yeah. That's I don't know, man. Like I'm always because people are very quick to be like anti this and that, and obviously it does do detrimental things, but like there is a lot of good that comes from it, all things considered, right? So.
I think if you can use it as a tool, but I think that the number of people that can use it as a tool
is limited,
is shrinking day by day.
Well, I almost feel like it's engineered.
It is
not to be effectively used as a tool, so you most people will just fall trapped to it, like to no fault of their own. It's just meant to be that way.
We're all just bugs, man. And if you can fucking flip our switches, like, it's all that matters. Yeah. So it's like, if I got
moist robot theory.
Yeah. If I got
Have you ever heard that from Scott Adams?
No, that is pretty much what it exactly is, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Like
we're kind of these robots with a fleshy outer covering, where if we receive the correct inputs, we will perform a certain action. Yeah. Myself included, you included, right?
Yeah. Like, So I do think certain people can be manipulated easily.
Perhaps,
easier. Yeah. But
oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like anything, it's being aware of it. Like, I am extremely aware of marketing to a point I'll be like swiping my card at a terminal and being like, oh shit, I'm buying this because I saw that ad earlier today. Goddamn beep. Right?
Shit.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Come out of the like blackout of like, But even so, no, like I kind of clue in when it's happening or whatever, right? But
I think the number one way
if you're just not aware of it.
Yeah. I think the number one way to like avoid it completely is don't watch the news. Because like that is 100% emotional manipulation. And what I've thought about this too, it's like every fucking news organization in the States is a for-profit corporation.
Yeah, isn't that a weird idea?
And you're getting your fucking information from them. It's almost like science is fucking run by interest groups of like Monsanto sponsoring this fucking.
What's Monsanto?
Monsanto is like the biggest pesticide company and
Yeah,
seed company in the world, sponsoring like a study into
on pesticides.
Well, not even
Right.
that, but like into nutrition. You know, it's like, oh well, nutrition is we got to eat our sugar and avoid those fats, a la 1970 through 1997
Right.
to 2000.
Oh yeah, or even like how the 4 food groups.
Yeah.
And breakfasts, all the breakfast.
Breakfast the most
ads.
important meal of the day. When
Eat
it's
more
not.
chicken,
Yeah,
eggs.
yeah.
Right, where it's like I don't know. It's a weird system we have.
But it's like, okay, well, there's fucking interest groups on every different side
every
of it.
side
So
and
what's
every
the
company.
fucking truth? Because it's like, fucking big meat wants me to eat more meat. Big fucking
Big
grass
veg.
wants me to eat more grass.
Big grass.
Yeah.
No,
Smoke
that's
more grass.
I was about to say big grass. That's a Canadian industry.
Yeah, exactly. Big soy.
Yeah,
Ooh,
big
we're gonna
soy.
get banned.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's seriously, it's like, what's the fucking truth?
Mhm.
I was listening to a podcast today about scientific theory, and it was like, it's almost flawed unto itself because of all of these like
How
human
so?
emotions, like and also interest.
Oh,
too.
right. Actually, this is another Scott Adams thing of like, we make the mistake of assuming we're logical when logic is actually impossible for
Yep.
humans because there's some level of emotional input
Yep.
on every decision.
Even the most like out there
like
robotic.
like let's say a very quantitative knowledge,
Yeah.
low social intelligence person,
Yeah.
still some emotional input
Yeah.
on their decisions, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting to consider because it was like, and it's almost like it's the new religion of the day too. It's like, well, science is telling us everything.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. Well, science
you're a
can
blasphemer for speaking
Yeah.
against it or whatever.
like science can launch rockets. Don't get me fucking wrong.
Mhm.
But can science solve? I don't know. And science is continually changing too. Because I mean,
Well, that's the thing.
yeah. So it's like, well, if I fucking believe this in 1970 and it's untrue by 2000,
Mhm.
did I do the right thing?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know what the solution is, though?
What's that?
Anecdotes and personal experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Which is what we share every Wednesday morning. So, yeah. Shit, you said something really good there that I was going to expand on, but now I kind of forgot.
I think, but it goes back to like, you have to try things. You know, like you can't just read theory
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and then just say, oh, well, okay.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, what good does this do for my fucking life
Well,
if I read it and then not take action on it?
Well,
too?
even in like any, speaking of groups and group relations and stuff, in any group, there will be a consensus, and being a dissenter will be met with resistance, right? So in academia, going against the status quo will, like you're putting your neck out there, and
Yeah.
the group won't like that and will shun you and shame you and until you either come back into the group's way of thinking or fuck off, pretty much, right? So,
Of course.
a good example that's not is quite old timey is, not old timey, but so The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. I think we've talked about that book, you and I.
Maybe.
Joe Rogan has a hard on for it. So basically, it's a book that was this one gentleman's research. He's actually a linguist, but it was him researching ancient. So basically, researching the influence on Christianity that came from ancient like sex cults of the Near East kind of thing. So
Interesting.
basically, kind of the earlier tribes that lived in the Crescent. What's it called? Is it Fertility Crescent or something like that?
No idea what
Something
you're
like that.
talking
But like, so where society first developed was in like more advanced society was in this. It's the something Crescent, but it was the Near East of like Jerusalem and stuff,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
where Africa and Asia meet, and there's very like fertile land there.
I'm just looking up
It's
keywords
it's
here.
the something Crescent.
Duck, duck, go, don't fail me. Don't fail me. Oh, I have no idea. The Dome of the Rock?
No. So, anyways.
Oh,
so,
you failed me.
Anyways, Bronze Age, researching Bronze Age, or before the Bronze Age tribes of the Near East and their societies, but, and how his theory was that these ancient sex cults who took mushrooms and shit, and psychedelics
And shit.
actually eventually created early Christianity, and how a lot of Christian themes and stuff are actually like A, influenced by this, or B, even were more outright because they were a persecuted group or whatever, they were hiding their traditions and using metaphors and stuff. And at the time, he wrote this in the 60s or 70s, so the West was still quite religious.
Yeah.
He like ruined his career and stuff, but now there's actually like a lot of more academic supporting this theory.
That's funny as fuck.
It's really interesting. Like if you ever look up Santa Claus was a mushroom on YouTube.
Okay.
And it's really interesting history, and it's actually true, but it was so I'm kind of butchering this, but so underneath pine trees, certain types of mushrooms grow that have some psychedelic effects, and they're little red and white mushrooms, and they look kind of like little boxes under a tree, presents under a Christmas tree.
Okay.
Reindeer in the north eat these mushrooms and start fucking tripping balls, right? So that's where the story of flying reindeer come from.
Okay.
And the story of Santa somehow ties in there. I'm butchering the exact
That's
history,
fucking
but it's all related. And then, so it goes back to, I don't know, it's a really interesting book, and he actually is analyzing him being a linguist, analyzing ancient religions, because there were less words back then, so meaning has been kind of lost over time or whatever, or like a word that says this, if you analyze other subwords of the time, it was actually saying this sort of thing, and so on and so forth. I haven't read the whole thing. It's an academic dissertation, so it's kind of rambly and boring, but it's really interesting.
Linguists are like definitely on the forefront of a lot of things. Because I mean, like, I don't know why it is, but it's like, you know what, like, society is like trying to make words mean not what the word means. I won't say any of them
Examples,
but we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But a linguist will be like, a word means what a word fucking means. That's why it's a word.
Right.
You know, it's like Thomas is not
a
Steven.
photocopier.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
so,
it's like Thomas is not Steven, Thomas is Thomas. You know,
Right,
and like
right.
a photocopier is a photocopier.
Yeah.
A photocopier is not a globe.
yeah.
You know, so it's like, how do you have a conversation with somebody that thinks that there's a million different meanings to a word? Because that conversation will essentially mean nothing. That's your big brain thought for the day.
Interesting. Well, I think because don't linguists also, like, linguists is more like kind of accents and sounds and stuff, and
It is, but I think it's also like the origin of a lot of like.
well, actually, which is what I just fucking described. So
yeah,
yes,
exactly.
So,
yeah. So it's like,
yeah,
so it's, which is fascinating when you really think about it. It's like, I make this sound with my mouth and it means something.
oh yeah,
And we have agreed upon it meaning something.
yeah, like, and
And-
most language, especially English, is like non-descriptive. There's a more specific word for it, but basically, like, the word does not make the sound of the thing, right? Like it the word itself does not describe the thing. It's kind of an arbitrary word, right? Like
Crazy.
tree, right?
Yeah.
In theory, if language was like a cow would be called a moo or something like
Yeah.
that, and for example.
I do like how English doesn't have the whole masculine feminine stuff, because how the fuck do you determine if a tree is masculine or feminine, and then also determine that everything else is masculine or feminine? It's like this
That is
microphone.
really-
This
yeah.
microphone is either
Yeah.
masculine or feminine.
L
I don't fucking know.
microphone or lay microphone.
Yeah. It's like,
It is kind of funny how European languages have that, but then English does not.
yeah.
But then, because they say English is the hardest language in the world because there's so many irregular rules. So, I don't know. It's kind of a funny, maybe it was ancient people were like, doing this, conjugating all the verbs and stuff is dumb. Let's do it this way. But then that creates all the weird rules.
I know what I'm going down the rabbit hole now is linguistics because it's that's insane to me. Shit. You ever think about fluid dynamics?
No.
I was really fucking stoned one night, and I was looking at a fire, and I said, I turned to my buddy, and I was like, "You ever think about fluid dynamics?" Because that's what a fire is, a fluid, right? So it's like,
is that what a fire is? Okay. Actually, I was about to say
air is a fluid, right?
Because that's a question of what is fire, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's like, and I was saying to him, I was like, a computer can model that. How?
Why is that so trippy?
That's fucking insane. It's like we as humans have figured out a way to model water.
Like CGI it? Is that what you're saying?
Sure, you know? Or calculate where things are going. It's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Right. Okay.
Pretty bonkers.
I think I see where you're going. That sounds more like a high thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, you're absolutely right. Or even how, like, you know, some of the early scientists could fucking calculate the orbit of the Earth by, like, looking up and kind of going like this.
Yeah.
And then doing some math with the
and they weren't
fucking
far
quill.
off.
Yeah, and they were surprisingly accurate.
Yeah, I can do that. I took fucking astronomy. I was going to say astrology.
I took
astrology.
I took astronomy in university. Learned a lot about the signs, you know.
I was so miffed at how much fucking math that class was, and then I was like, I actually kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You thought it was just going to be like...
Not math.
Planets are cool, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you guys get to go to, like, the...
Observatory? Did it twice.
I've actually kind of wanted to, like, go to that just for funsies kind of thing.
Saw Saturn. Pretty life-changing.
Yeah. Was it like a good, like it's
pretty decent.
Pretty decent. The picture you can see of it is pretty, or picture through a telescope, like it's pretty impressive.
It was pretty impressive. You could see like the fucking craters on the moon.
Wow.
You could see.
My mom actually took a astronomy course at the Space and Science Center when I was like a little kid. It was like sort of a night classy sort of thing. And I remember her telling me that when the one night where they used the telescope to look at Saturn, she would have sworn it was like they had a telescope and they put a sticker at the end of it that looked like Saturn because it's so like vivid and like kind of cartoony almost.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And how do you know where to point? You know, like it's like there's a big fucking sky out there and I'm gonna point right at Saturn.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Yeah. How?
Well, I mean, obviously it's easy now, but yeah, how do you figure that out? Or even like, well, they were showing the fucking one thing I never thought about because I've been to the LBJ Space Center in Houston, right? And they were talking. This is where I first kind of heard about it, but I never thought about it. Or maybe in like some Neil deGrasse videos they talk about it. But the physics of a rocket launch is like, it's not something flat going straight up like this. It's the curvature of the Earth. You have to time how the Earth is orbiting, where the moon is, or whatever. Launch at the right time, right? Like it's fucking wild.
Yeah, when you actually go to the moon, they do a full. Well, they orbit the Earth because they're in low Earth orbit, and then they actually have to fire at the correct time to put it on a trajectory to intercept the moon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy, but it also, once you start to realize the real physics of it, any kind of like space travel in any movie or whatever, it's very like linear XY axis sort of visualization, and it's like it's not even remotely close.
You're not sending it like this. You're sending it like that. You know. And you have to get it going so fast that it can't come down towards the Earth. Like it essentially has to circle.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking bonkers.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And to catch up with the fucking International Space Station and dock with it.
Yeah.
How did we do that?
Like it's literally like, it's like a Dude Perfect video of like you flying a drone by me throwing something in the air, bouncing it off something, landing on the drone, you know, some shit like that. Like just so
ridiculous. And they can do it every single time. Yeah. And they fucking cheer every single time they're successful. And I mean, I don't blame you.
Well, because it's so much work for months and months, right?
Blame you. Yeah. Bonkers.
Got my NASA jacket ready to go. I'm going in.
Shout out Werner von Braun, Nazi fucking scientist that started NASA,
Yeah.
which is also crazy to think about. But
Yeah, that's a really...
that's another rabbit hole. There you go, rabbit hole episode.
Operation Paperclip? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. I just know that
Operation or Project?
Yeah.
But Paperclip was the name of it.
I just know that they brought a bunch of Nazis over and started building rockets.
So, so one thing I learned, and then I learned further to it. So, in the early, or in about 100 years ago or so, and then plus or minus a few years, like fencing was really popular.
Okay.
And fencing was always a thing in Europe because if a guy slighted you or made a pass at your woman, you would fence with him.
Bring back dueling also. Between two consenting adults, I don't see why you can't duel. I'm sorry. You can fucking get into a cage with somebody. How can you not duel?
I guess, right? So, did you know that's why passing people on the left is the original way of doing things? We'll come back to that. So, anyways, so fencing was really popular like 100 years ago or whatever. But but then what guys would do to show their macho-ness was they would fence without masks or whatever.
Okay.
And so they would like cut themselves on their faces. And this was actually really popular with the elites of the Nazi Party. So a lot of the high up Nazis would, and my understanding is by this time it was kind of a niche sport and like a weird thing they did.
Yeah,
but
it was on its way out.
Yeah, their like fight club was they would fence with each other with no masks, and then so you would get cuts on your face, but they were kind of like badges of honor. They like wouldn't get stitches or get minimal stitches, so it would scar more. So a lot of the really higher ups of the Nazi Party had severe facial scarring. So when you look at the first launches, like a lot of the German NASA guys sitting besides JFK have the fucking wildest scars all over their face. And basically that shows they were like the worst of the worst of the Nazis. Like they were the high up there guys.
But they were smart. They can launch big things of metal into the air.
Yeah.
Sorry, pass people on the left.
Oh, so because like my old roommate who was Aussie and stuff, so we would kind of debate passing on the left versus passing on the right, and like
like when you're driving.
Yeah, exactly, and what the etiquette is on the street and stuff. So passing on the left, which they do in England, Australia, and some random other parts of the world, is actually the original way of doing things.
Do we not pass on the left?
We pass on the right. No. We drive on the right side of the road. Passing when you are walking at each other. That's what I mean.
Okay, I thought you meant like passing when you're driving on the highway, for example.
I mean like...
I was like, this motherfucker passes on the right on the highway? Fuck this guy. No, I was kidding.
Like driving no. Yeah. So what I mean when I say pass on the right, I mean walking down the street towards each other.
Same thing like when you're walking down the hallway.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Walking down the hallway.
There you go. Okay.
So passing people on the left or walking on the left side of things is the original way because you would carry a rapier around all the time, and most people are right-handed, so you would draw this way. So you would always have everyone on your like sword hand side. Yeah. Right? So everyone would pass on the left, walk on the left-hand side. And then, so that translated into like horse and buggy on roads. If you were coming at each other, you would both go to the left lane, if you will, or you would drive on the left-hand side of the road. But what would happen is because most people are right-handed, you wouldn't usually sit in the middle of your buggy. You would sit to the left because you can have a longer rope on the right-hand side because this is your good hand. Okay. But then when two people are both driving on the left-hand side in the left-hand driver's seat, you're really far apart from each other. Right. So they would have horse and buggy collisions because you can't really see the right side of your car where you're passing each other. Nice. So they started driving on the right-hand side of the road, heavy quotation marks, and that's how we evolved into the North American driving on the right.
Shit. I do know that's why we leave the bottom button of the suit undone.
Yes.
It's because you're supposed to be able to draw a sword. Fuck, bring swords back. Bring dueling back. Bring all the best parts of the fucking 1400s back. Bring corsets back.
Philosophy.
I love that fucking meme I sent you guys today.
Oh yeah, that one.
That was amazing.
Corsets. Isn't that a thing now with the those waist trainers or whatever.
Fucking everything old is new again, man. Everything old is
Is
new.
there original thought?
No, there isn't. There's just essentially, honestly, Principles, Ray Dalio, he talks about another one of those. And it's like, when you start seeing things as another one of those, you'll understand things have happened before. And essentially just history repeats itself just continuously. Because people don't learn lessons. Virgin modern philosopher. Never read Aristotle. Naive empiricist. Tepid normalist. Fights against dark age superstition. Science.
So what would even be like an example of that?
That would be somebody that essentially
Like a
believes only in science, doesn't care about truth, just engineering a comfy life. I think it's almost like, like how people are so nihilistic. Maybe that's the best.
That's like a self-loathing, right?
Yeah.
Or like
not necessarily, more so like, like black-pilled, where it's like everything is fucking pointless.
Everything's pointless.
Yeah.
Right.
Essentially,
right,
I think
right.
that this is like,
Oh yeah. Basically the belief that life is kind of meaningless.
I think you're a virgin modern philosopher because I think we said in this conversation, thinks logic is a social construct.
Well, yeah.
Fuck. Hilarious. Only reads works written before 1500. I do think that there is definitely merit to that because I think, like, again, like we said, everything old is new again.
Yeah.
If something actually has truth to it, it should be able to stand the test of time.
For sure. Absolutely.
So,
I actually started listening to Philosophize This.
great podcast.
I'm at like the very start, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll maybe work my way through it.
Starts off kind of slow, but it's very good. It's very well done. It's also kind of like hardcore history.
Oh, okay.
Dan
I know
Carlin?
what that is. I haven't really listened to that.
He goes into some interesting shit too. Like he covers everything from like the Cold War to the Mongols to
That'd be good.
oh yeah, super good. We're at an hour 10.
Oh, perfect.
Shit. That was a deep episode, man.
That was good. That was fun. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Long and Hardettes. We will see you next week. Should have some good guests coming up the next few weeks here, so get back into the swing of things.
Thanks for listening to us and expanding your mind today, because holy smokes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make every single post about this, you got to be, like, people who listen to this have to be stoned. They have to be, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
Or actually, to fully experience the podcast, if you have never thought these thoughts before, listen to it stoned, and then explore those thoughts, I suppose.
Thank you so much.